Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Seth Ferranti. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up? What's up, Stax? How you doing, man? Thanks
I'm
for
doing
having me
good.
on.
Yeah, no problem. You've been making waves lately.
Yeah, sometimes stuff goes good, sometimes stuff goes bad. You just got to keep rolling, right?
Yeah, we done interview before. You told me your story. We didn't talk about how you faked your own death and all that. Forgot to get into
No,
that part.
no.
But you got into filmmaking. Can you tell me how you got into filmmaking, and then we'll get into what's been going on lately?
Yeah, well, I started writing in prison. I wrote like 8 gangster books in prison. I've started writing for magazines like Vice, Don Diva, Feds. I was doing mostly prison gangs, like urban drug lords, mafia guys. A lot of dudes I was locked up with them too. I was locked up with their homies or co-defendants. So, I was doing that because that's all I could do in prison. All you could do is write. But my my whole objective was I wanted to tell these stories, and the best medium to tell these stories is film because that has the biggest impact. You could, reach the most people. It's the most accessible. So I always had this idea as I'm in there writing these articles for Vice, Don Diva Feds. Then I'm doing my books through Gorilla Convict, Supreme Team, and I'm like, man, I want to tell these stories visually. So like before even going out the door, like 5, 10 years, I'm already got a writing career in prison. So I'm like formulating all this in my mind. I'm like manifesting it. And then, the closer I get, I start reading more stuff, books. I was ordering books like The Idiot's Guide, to cameras or films or documentaries, and I was reading a lot of type of that stuff. And just any book I could get, I was trying to get my base of knowledge. I was even looking at like shots. They got books that have pictures of different shots and how to set up and stuff like that. So I was really getting into it. I put a lot of effort. So then when I got out, it's not like I jumped right into doing film stuff. I was still doing articles. I was still putting out books. I was doing events, Comic Cons and different stuff like that. It was like 2015, 2016. And then, I've been writing about the White Boy Rick case a lot, like on Vice News and a bunch of other websites. And I had this one piece on this website called The Fix It. I actually wrote in 2012 that when I was in, it kind of went viral. So me and this other guy, Scott Bernstein, we were kind of known as like the dude's white, carrying the torch for White Boy Rick. And I hooked up with this filmmaker, Sean Reck, Transition Studios. I interviewed him for his first documentary. Sean Reck is a guy, he did like 200 Crime Stopper shows for all the networks, and he did his first feature doc. And he won like 8 regional Emmys in Ohio. So I interviewed him about A Murder in the Park for Vice. And then, we made a connection, because I told him my story and we kind of started talking. And he was actually needed something else. He was looking for another documentary and he had heard about the White Boy Rick movie. And, I introduced him to my work. And I'm like, yeah, we can do a doc on this. And that's how I kind of got my feet in the game. I gave him access to all that story. I had access to Rick and a lot of other people like Scott Bernstein, who had access to a lot of people. And we came and we joined teams with Sean and we made that film, So that was kind of like my um I don't know, mentorship, school, university, but you can't pay for the kind of education that I got from Sean Reck and making that white boy over like that, 18-month period.
That was like
That yeah.
your first like really taste of the documentary world, right?
Yeah, I mean, I done some short films when I got out, that I put on YouTube, but this was like professional. This dude was a professional, man. He's won Emmys, and he kind of took me under his wing and trained me, in the documentary game. I knew how to tell a story. I just didn't know all the, I didn't know the cameras. You can read about cameras, but I learn real good when I'm there and I do something. Some people read. I'll read and make a plan, but then when you can get that hands-on training,
Yeah.
that he gave me. Yeah, and Sean Reck was really cool. He would even do like he would interview people and he would sit in the director's chair. And then, he would give me 5 minutes like in the chair, asking the questions, at the end and they would still be recording. So, he really put a lot of effort and trained me into not only writing for film and producing film, but directing.
That's what you're most known for, is the White Boy Rick documentary, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's the biggest thing I've done to date.
And then
You
that
know.
opened doors for a whole bunch of other things.
Yeah, yeah. So I got Nightlife out, which is a film. I worked on that film like 5 years. Basically, my first film. It didn't come out first, but that was my first film that I was kind of running all by myself. That's about a group of violence interrupters in St. Louis, Missouri. There's this guy, the Reverend Kim McCoy. We actually followed him around for like 2 years and took footage. He walks the streets on the north side, which is like the worst area in St. Louis. And but he doesn't walk during the day. He walks at night.
Yeah.
So he'll be out there like 11 to 2. So we would go out there and follow him with like cameras. It's crazy. One of my cameramen was like an ex-military dude, and I don't know if his camera work. It was okay, but I had better cameraman. But I particularly picked him because like he was licensed to carry, and he knew how to use it. So like he had a 9. Like on every shoot. I mean, we didn't tell nobody, but we had it just in case, because I
Yeah.
mean, stuff can
You
get
need
crazy
it.
out there. Yeah, but the
Sometimes you
Rev,
need that.
yeah, the Rev had a good handle on everything. He never got us in those situations. So Nightlife was actually the first one. It took me about 5 years, self-funded. I got a little money from one of my lawyer friends and stuff, but pretty much self-funded. Took a long time to make. And I had some other ideas. Like I had the idea for Dope Man. I had the idea for Psychic Revolution. I had the idea for some of the other stuff I'm working on now, but I didn't have any money, to do it professionally. And Nightlife, I was working mostly like college students and stuff like that. And my buddy, who was an ex-military dude, but we still got some beautiful shots. But so the end of the pandemic, White Boy goes on Netflix, and it's like top 10 on the whole site for like 2 weeks. I don't know if it got number one, but it got high. It was like 3, 4, not just for documentaries, for like everything. Like it was like on the top 10 masthead. I think we kind of got the Tiger King effect. Like remember that show Tiger King blew up in the
Yeah.
pandemic because so this was at the end of the pandemic, so everybody was still home. But yeah, it kind of went crazy, bro. Like it
Did
went
you think it was
crazy.
going to have the success it did?
No, I knew it was a good film, but actually it was the delayed success because the first 18 months it was out, it was on Stars, right? And it
Yeah.
really didn't make any noise on Stars. And then it was off Stars for a year, and then Netflix picked it up. And then it
Boom.
went on. Yeah, it went on at the end of the pandemic, and then yeah, because Netflix is just a bigger platform. I mean, Stars, all those other platforms are nice, but for the streaming, Netflix is the biggest. YouTube is probably the second biggest.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it went on there. So I don't think Stars, they didn't have a big enough audience, or they didn't promote it right, or they didn't market it right. I don't know, or the timing wasn't right. So it was kind of delayed success because it was on Stars for 18 months and it really didn't make a lot of noise. But yeah, as soon as it went on Netflix, and it's still on Netflix, they keep renewing it, the license. And once that happened, you know, um, it enabled me, to reach out to like investors for some of these other ideas, and I started getting stuff funded. Like I got Dope Men funded, America's First Drug Cartel. So that was my second film that I did with Christian Cipollini. It's actually
Where's that one streaming?
it's on Amazon, and it's on well, you gotta buy it. It's like a TVOD or AVOD, so you can get it on Amazon. You can rent it, and then you can get it on Tubi. You can watch it with ads on Tubi. So that's
Yeah.
what I did with Christian Cipollini. That idea kind of came from him. He wrote it, but I put the whole film thing together, and he's also the star of it too, Christian. But yeah, that goes all back into prohibition. Lucky Luciano. Harry Anslinger. You know, Rothstein. Jack Lake's Diamond. It goes into all these 20 gangsters and kind of shows how before prohibition even ended, these gangsters were already, starting the first drug cartel. Because everybody talks about like Mexican cartels, Colombian cartels, but I mean, the Italians had the first drug cartel.
Yeah, the heroin was
Yeah,
flooding the
yeah,
streets.
based out of New
Everybody,
York City. Yeah,
yeah,
based out of New York City before prohibition even ended. So, that's not talked about. A lot of that's lost in history. So that's what Dope Man shows, that story. But it also shows how Harry Anslinger started the bureau, who was a Harry Anslinger, who was a failed prohibition agent, started the Bureau of Narcotics, and he became like the head drug cop, the predecessor to the DEA. And it shows how like racism and criminalizing drug use and all that started then, before the end of prohibition. So it's weird, you got this kind of timeline. It all goes with prohibitions when the mobsters are making a lot of money, and the government's trying to restrict access to us, and the alcohol thing doesn't work. So then they immediately switched to all these other substances, be it cannabis or whatever, and
yeah.
made a war on that. So Dopeman kind of shows that 100-year parallel. That's just the first episode. I got more episodes of that planned too.
And then
So
you were gonna do one about Ryan Leone before he passed away, right?
yeah, that one's up too. That one's on that's on Amazon, and it's on Tubi too. So that's the A Tortured Mind, the realities of post incarceration syndrome. So, Ryan had been making a film, trying to get a documentary about himself for like several years, because we've been talking about it. I was doing all the stuff, because he got out a little bit before me. He was trying to get something going. He had about 3 or 4 different filmmakers, that he was talking to, and they were recording a lot of footage, doing interviews and stuff like that. And then, and I seen some cuts and stuff like that. But his was like, he was called like the savage, idiot savant, the savage life of Ryan Leone. And it was more supposed to be almost like a success story, like someone goes through the grinder, prison, drug addiction, mental illness, then comes out of the other end, has a family, becomes a successful writer in Hollywood. And
Yeah,
Ryan too. A lot of people talk a lot of shit about Ryan, but I mean that dude was in Hollywood, bro. He was going to the parties. He was hanging out with Johnny Depp. Nick Stahl's his boy. Nick Stahl was like in the Terminator movies and
yeah.
a lot of other stuff. I mean, he was going to all those parties, bro. So I mean, he was right there in the mix. I know because he used to call me, send me pictures or whatever. But when he passed, his dad, because he knew we were friends, and he knew my films, and he knew my work. And I think at that time I'd come out, I had, White Boy, Dope Men, I think even Psychedelic Revolution had come out that time, in Nightlife. And or they were almost coming out. And he came to me and he's like, look, man, we got all this, his estate has all this footage, can you finish this film? And they had like different cuts, and I was basically like, I don't know if I can finish that film, because I mean that film didn't really happen. I mean, he passed. That it wasn't the right ending. So I said, but I'd rather do a film that kind of looks, from a different angle, from the angle of the post incarceration syndrome, how people get out of prison and the authorities just give them like $200 and a bus ticket. I mean, you could have been in shoe for like 5 years, like
Yeah.
lockdown 24 hours a day, or whatever. And they just give you, you could have had all types of traumatic experience, drug addiction, who knows, homosexual rape. I don't know. I mean, it runs the gamut. All types of stuff goes on in there. So, each individual bears their own cross. But, they don't give no counseling, no, you know, after conditioning, no, like stuff you can go to after treatment. I don't know what you want to call it. Like they don't give nothing. They don't do nothing. So that's what I wanted to show, how as a society, in A Tortured Mind, I do it through Ryan's story, but what I'm showing is how as a society, we put people in prison, with mental issues, drug addictions or whatever. And then, because drug use is criminalized. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
since drug use is criminalized, drug use is not seen as a medical problem, it's criminalized.
And
So,
you were locked
you get
up.
prison.
You were locked up for nonviolent drug offenses, right?
Yeah, yeah, for 21 years, cannabis and LSD. But I wanted to show with The Tortured Mind that, somebody has to do something, because you can't take these people. Dude, they go in there fucked up. They go in there, they witness the violence, the degradation from the guards, getting treated less than human. I mean, you know what that shit's like. Like, we're not even fucking people.
Mhm.
Dogs, pets get treated better, and then you got to witness the violence and just, the degradation, man. It's like the cesspool of fucking life. And then you get no type of counseling, nothing. You're already fucked up in the head. And, dudes like Ryan, they just come out worse. I think we all get fucked up. I think everybody, that's done any type of little bit in prison, you got some type of PTSD. Some of us just hide it better. Some of the people, they, what I'm saying, they broadcast it, it gets out there, and their addictions and their mental illness just, you know, make it explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what that film is about. I'm trying to say, man. I mean, in prison, yeah, there's some psychopaths in prison, man. There's some evil people, and they deserve to be there for life for whatever they did or whatever they're thinking about doing or whatever they might do. I mean, that's the low percentages, man. You're
It's
talking
very
like,
rare people
yeah,
change their life and don't go
yeah,
back, though. You know?
yeah. Well, because you make it hard too. It's like there's hardly any education. You got to give people the tools they need. See, I'm a self starter, so I went and got all the tools I needed to survive. But like I say, people look for the easy when they get out. They look for what's familiar. They go back to what they know. You know what I'm saying? So, and if you don't have the tools to do something else, yeah. But that's what that a tortured mind. That's kind of I don't want there to be no more Ryan Leone's. Hopefully.
That was a terrible waste that he ended up passing away the way he did.
Yeah.
I mean, there's talk that he died of pneumonia and different things, but I think drug addiction is the main cause of his
Yeah.
downfall.
No, but what happened was he got hit with those because he went in and he did have pneumonia. He was having trouble breathing.
Yeah.
They hit him with those medical grade benzos, right? But he had fentanyl in the system, so then he had a heart attack. You know,
Oh man.
yeah,
So
because you
kind of
can't.
like kind
Yeah,
of like
yeah,
induces it, right? It induces
uh,
it.
yeah. But I think they asked him, and he said no. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there. I just know what they've kind of pieced together. So because they always ask you that. Before they hit you with those medical grade injections. For whatever. But yeah, but that's what happened. So he basically died of a heart attack. Yeah, but it was basically his drug addiction which led him to that.
Did you ever think you would go back to prison?
No, but I've never thought I have. But I've had some close calls. I mean, I am who I am. I do what I do. I stand for the same thing I've always stood for. And sometimes when you're that type of person, people want to make an example out of you.
What was it like to be back in jail after you got out and been out for so long? And
Yeah, I mean, it sucked. I was in the county jail for like 3 weeks. I had that arrest in Nebraska. I'm actually going through the court process now. I think I got pre-trial in February, then maybe trial in March. But we'll see, man. That county where they picked me up is notorious for illegal stops and search and seizures. They just do money grabs. You know, um, but we'll see. I can't get into the case too much. I still got to fight it. Yeah, but definitely, man. 3 weeks in that Seward County detention center. Yeah, bro, it was garbage, man.
has it changed since the other
I
time
mean,
you were
everything. I think
jail?
everything's worse. Everything's worse now. Everything's worse. You
What
know,
kind?
the.
What type of quality people are in there? A bunch of people that are on drugs and
I mean, you got the highway stop people, but then you had like basically like a lot of drug addict. People that were struggling with drug. Like it seemed that the pod I was in like the medium security pod. So and it was funny too because it was all white boys. Like I'm in Nebraska, so it's all fucking white boys. I think there was like one Mexican, but a lot of them are in there for like just like crazy shit. Like the police were chasing them, like car chases, running from the cops. Just like drug addict shit. Not people, not bad people, but just people that would struggle with addictions and got themselves in these different situations. And I mean, they all had little time, but depending on what they did, the severity of it. Yeah, but a lot of them were just there. If not a couple months, a year, stuff like that.
so you plan on taking it to trial?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I'm gonna preserve all my rights. It just passed medical, and when I was in there, November 4th, election day, they passed medical. So, I mean, come on, bro. I mean, it's weed, man. It shouldn't be criminalized anywhere. You can't have something. How is something a misdemeanor in California and it's 0 to 20 in Nebraska? I mean, it doesn't make sense, you
That's
know?
insane.
And then the scale of it too, like they try to scale with it, like a couple 100 pounds is like a lot of weed. It's not, bro. It is nothing. Dude, these legal corporations, I'm gonna mention one, Glass House is probably the biggest one in Los Angeles. Like you can read online, grew like they you can read online. They grew like 1.2 million pounds last year, bro.
And they transport it all over the place,
Dude,
right?
and it's going everywhere. It's going out the back door. Dude, you can go to dispensaries in New York and New Jersey and find Glass House products, like with all the California stamps and everything on it.
So
So,
so if someone goes and buys some weed, even a small amount, and they're driving through Nebraska, and they get
oh yeah,
pulled over.
they're gonna try to hit you, bro. They're gonna try to take your car. It's all about asset forfeiture, bro. Civil asset. You get busted with an ounce, they're gonna try to take your car.
Wow, I didn't
Telling
know
you,
all that.
and any money you got, dude. They're still like the '90s. Like the only people that are still like that, I think, are like Nebraska and Kansas. But
Because
what
they
they
haven't
have,
caught up with the times yet.
no, what they did is that they built like these little. They're like I call them like little fiefdoms, right? They're like these little empires, right? Imagine like you got the sheriff office. They're on the highways like pirates. Looking for people. You got the little judicial system, the detention center. It's all built up. They all support each other. You know what I'm saying? And,
Yeah,
and so whoever, the head sheriff or the head prosecutor is, that's how they do business. And they started doing business like that in the '90s when everybody was doing business. And these people just don't stop because there's nothing else for them to go to. Because what are the sheriff department in Nebraska going to do, and bumfuck Nebraska going to do besides chasing drug addicts? It's not like there's no crime
pick them
going
off
on
the
there.
highway, right? Pick them
Yeah,
off
there's
the
no
highway.
there's no organized crime. There's nothing like that going on there. They just got like some drug addicts. So what are they
Yeah,
going to do? They're going to chase drug addicts, or are they going to sit on the highway and try to get the money, bro? It's all about they try to take people's cars, your vehicles, any money you have, anything of value. If you just have some weed, it doesn't matter if it's a quarter, an ounce of weed, or a couple 100 pounds. So they started living like that, and they just keep living like this. And when you look at it too, it's crazy because anybody that knows anything about drug smuggling, I mean, you can watch it on TV. They got those drug smuggling shows. Everybody knows all the big loads are coming in tractor trailers,
yeah.
right? Everybody knows that. It's on TV. Why are these sheriffs in bumfuck Nebraska pulling over? What they do is they profile. They profile. You got to be a man driving a truck from a different state.
Yeah.
That's their profile, right? But they don't want to go. It's just like that's why I say they're like pirates because it's like the pirates. Think of the pirates like in the Mediterranean, like back in the 16th century. The pirates didn't attack the big fortified gold ships with cannons, that had the backup and the support ships, like these big truckers coming through, work for these big companies or whatever. They got lawyers, they're not going to pull them over or whatever. And they're the ones carrying all the fucking drugs for real. Everybody knows that, right? But just like the pirates, they'll go over. They go over the people with no support, the easy targets, the ones that they could just go rape and whatever, do whatever, and there's not going to be nothing. Nothing's going to come of it.
They have no way to fight back, basically.
So that's what these little sheriff's department do, bro. They pick and they choose. Like, dude, when I was there was like 3 or 4 people in there for weed, bro. It's like you got fentanyl, you got meth, you got all this stuff all over, going back and forth in the tractor trailers, hundreds of kilos at a time, and they're worried about somebody with some fucking weed, bro.
And
It's
they do
it's
illegal search and seizures quite a bit, right?
yeah, bro. They pull you over for nothing if you fit their profile. It's sickening, man, that this is going on in America today. It is sickening, bro. Dude, you could get busted in California with 1,000 pounds of weed. It's a misdemeanor. And all these legal corporations, they can do whatever they want. Oh, they can drive it here, drive it there, you know. But anybody else, you're a criminal. You know what I'm saying?
It's insane what they're doing.
Yeah, dude, in this Seward County, you can Google them, bro. Like they have hundreds and hundreds of articles about how corrupt and how they violate people's rights. Like there's been lawsuits against them, all types of stuff, man.
And then
You
they
know?
pile it all up on the trunk and take pictures with the
Yeah.
dogs and
But I'm
shit,
saying
right?
if they got a history of this, why how are they still doing it, man? It's just unbelievable, bro. You know?
It is
Yeah,
wild.
probably. Yeah, yeah. They think it's still the '90s. They're still in the drug war, bro. In Nebraska on I-80 in Seward County, the drug war is the most important thing to them.
How come they don't go after the narcotics that are going through that area?
Because look, dude, it's the same premise I've always told people. Like, why are cops always want to bust weed dealers, bro? Because look, and I get it. You're a cop. Most people at their jobs, they want to take the easy way out. They want to do least work as possible, right? So think if you're a cop, you can go bust a hippie kid smoking weed, or you can go bust a gangbanger or cartel member that's probably armed and has money and multiple people, right? You get the same credit for the weed guy that you do for the cartel dude or the gangbanger, but you know the weed dude's going to be peaceful. He's not going to have no guns. It ain't going to be no drama. So what do you think law enforcement and the cops and the DEA are going to do?
Of course.
They're going to take the easy way out, bro. It's always been like that since the '80s, you know? So that's what they do. I'm saying I'm not blaming them. Most people do that, but if you're a cop, you take an oath, you do all this. You want to fight these battles. You want to carry a gun. You want to be a man. Go fight the cartel dudes, man. Go fight the gangbangers. Go fight the people doing the real crime. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You've seen what they did in New York, right? They
Yeah,
raid
yeah.
all these weed spots, all these weed stores. They confiscate all the money and don't log it. So they're
Yeah, they
keeping
keep it,
all this
bro.
money. Yeah, they
It's
keep the
money
money for
grabs.
themselves. Yeah. And they don't log it. So they don't know how much money they got, where they got it, what happened to it. It's just gone.
Yeah, bro. It's money grabs, man. That's their hustle.
So,
It's
yeah.
America. Everybody got a hustle. That's theirs. That's a cops hustle. They want your fucking. You have any type of drugs, they want your money. It's been like that since the '90s. Like a lot of it's changed in the last 5 years or so, but they still got these holdouts. They're like they got this backwards thinking. Like moving, you got medical marijuana in your state now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, they
You
do.
cr-
In
yeah, yeah. They
Nebraska,
just
they got
yeah they
medical.
just voted. They just voted it. They just voted it on November 4th.
And the fucked up thing is, if say they voted to be recreational, people will still be in prison for it. They don't
Yeah,
retroactive
yeah,
the
yeah.
laws, right?
No, no, a lot of times they don't. Yeah, that's what it's insane. It's the whole thing, and this was what a lot of the cannabis people have been saying for the last 5, 10 years. Why are these big corporations, pharmaceutical or whatever, they're allowed to get a license and sell weed and do whatever they want. But then what about all the legacy operators? About all the people that champion this plant? What about all the people, from the traditional market, especially ones like me with felonies and stuff like that? Like we're just X'd out, bro. Like we're the one that pushed this shit. This is our culture. You know what I'm saying? And we
Yeah.
push this culture. Now we finally got to the age where, a lot of people from the 80s, we're in our 50s. And why do you think we got medical marijuana now? Because, this generation, whatever my generation, Generation X, we push this shit, and the people before us in the '70s, we push this shit. You know what I'm saying? We risk our life, we risk our freedom, you know? And this is culture, man. It's not about drugs or substance, it's a lifestyle. Marijuana is a culture, psychedelics is a culture. In the '80s, we call it the counterculture. But we pushed all this stuff, and now it's like all these other people are capitalizing. And the thing, like these companies like Glass House is like ex cops and ex judges, bro. They used to put people in prison for marijuana, and now they got these marijuana uh companies. And dude, I've even seen like on their social media where these dudes even say like this judge and this cop and this prosecutor or judge or whatever he is, like they'll say on their social media like, man, like we grow more weed than we ever busted. It's just
What?
like dude, the difference between why are these people allowed to do it, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like just because I got felonies for something that's legal now. You know, dude, all my felonies, I got a bunch of felonies, all nonviolent felonies.
Yeah,
But
and you ended up going to prison for 21 years, you said, for
mhm.
nonviolent. So when you did get arrested a long time ago, the first batch of charges, what was that for, and what happened?
Yeah, that was for LSD. So me, I was young too, man. I was young. So basically, the Fed said I was running the LSD ring on the East Coast. I was supplying 15 colleges in 5 states with LSD and marijuana, like around 89 to 91.
And that was
You know,
very
yeah,
taboo back
yeah.
then.
I was indicted out of the Northern Virginia, and but I mean, whatever, man. I had friends at colleges. I went and visit them. I mean, I could get shit. And I can make a profit off it. Why wouldn't I do it? And it's stuff I believe in. I mean, I was a trailblazer, bro. I've been on the front line of this, my whole life since I was 13. I've been on the front line of this counterculture war, since the 80s, going on 40 years. So, it's just kind of crazy. But like I say, I'm not gonna change now. I'm gonna change now. Like I'm 54. I think weed should be legal everywhere. And I think you should have access. Weed should be sold in stores like cigarettes or alcohol, mushrooms, maybe something like LSD. Yeah, that can be administered a little differently because it's a very powerful drug. I don't know if you sell it over the corner or over the counter, but like weed, like cannabis, THC, bro, it's not even in alcohol's category. Alcohol is way worse. Weed, THC is like sugar or caffeine or nicotine.
They seem to be lightening up in certain states
It's the
about the
same,
whole
bro. Yeah, it's the same. I mean, and they use cannabis for everything for 10,000 years. It's only been the last 100 years since the pharmaceutical and the plastic companies came online in the 20s and started using petroleum for everything to make pills or plastics. That's what kind of they vilified the cannabis and the hemp industry because they used to use hemp. That's like from the cannabis plant to hemp. They used to use that for everything. They make jeans, bags,
yeah.
sales. Yeah, so it's only the last 100 years. So yeah, we're coming out of it, but we're not where we need to be at all. And all these holdouts and all these people. I mean, this is America, bro. This is the US. You can't be having crazy laws like it's one thing in one state and one in another. That's not fair to
It's
people.
like
That's not fair to
Thailand. It's like Thailand in Nebraska, right? If you get caught with a joint.
yeah, it's crazy, bro. I knew another dude that got arrested in Nebraska. He didn't even have a quarter. He had like maybe a quarter ounce, and he had a rental car, so they couldn't take the car. But he got arrested and had to spend the night in jail. They let him out the next day or whatever, or a couple days. But and they gave him his car back because it was rental. But it's like, why did you just make this dude spend like 48 hours in jail for like a quarter ounce of weed? Whatever. I mean, you should just leave him alone. But even if anything, it should be like a ticket. You know what I'm
Right?
saying?
I guess some of them aren't coming with the times. I was in school with a kid who was selling LSD, right? And he got caught with a sheet, and there was like 40 hits off of it that he got rid of, and they gave him all these crazy charges, attempted murder, and all this shit. He went to prison for like 20 something years, all for a fucking piece of paper.
Yeah, it's crazy, and something that's therapeutical and can help people.
I mean, he
Yeah,
was
but
young. It was high school time. I don't think.
yeah, that's when I started. I started doing that shit when I was like 15, 16. I started smoking weed when I was 13. By 15, I was selling. Yeah, like I said, but like I said, I sold substances, but I sold substances that I thought shouldn't be illegal. So that's why I always tell people, I'm not a criminal. I'm an outlaw. Like I didn't sell coke. I didn't sell all that type of shit. I didn't sell shit to make money. Yeah, I made money. I made a lot of money off weed in my life, and psychedelics. But I've always sold that because I felt people wanted it. People had the need for it. So I was going to be the person. I knew people where I could get it, And like I say, I like money. I didn't mind making money on it,
And
to
people
fit
are,
in with my, yeah, that
yeah,
was my lifestyle. And that lifestyle, I was just like a suburban hippie kid. That lifestyle led to fucking 25 years in prison, like I'm, you know, John Gotti Jr. or something
yeah, yeah, El
for
Chapo.
fucking for a first time nonviolent offense.
And you're with killers in there in federal
Yeah.
prison, right?
Yeah, you got all types of people, man. Mafia dudes, killers, bank robbers, gang bangers, gun thugs, Mexican nationals, Colombian nationals, Jamaican nationals, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's crazy, but whatever. So I just got a new battle, new case I got to fight. I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to change. Uh, but whatever. Sometimes you do shit happens, and you got to face the music. It's not stopping nothing. I'm still doing my docs. You know, like I say, my my
What's in
my my.
store for the future for you?
Well, I got I'm gonna film like when I go to court and stuff. So I'm gonna film. So I want to do a documentary on this Seward County charge, and we're gonna record in real time and then say what happens and stuff like that. But also, I got the next thing I got coming out. I got the episode 1 of my Tangled Roots series. So my Tangled Roots series is it's gonna be 4 episodes, but it's a true story of Humboldt County. The Emerald Triangle where historically and traditionally, 65% of the cannabis in the US was coming from this little area, all like through the 70s, 80s, 90s, even up until probably the 2010s, and legalization. This documentary series is kind of my love letters to Humboldt County because I grew up knowing about Humboldt, knew about Humboldt like when I was, 12, 13 when I first started smoking weed down in Southern California. If you got everything was all the Mexican brick pot. So if you got like some Humboldt weed, you had some good weed. So I knew about that. We used to call it kind bud.
Yeah, I remember back in the day. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but this is coming out. We're finalizing now. So the first episode is called Back to the Landers, and it kind of tells how like kind of like the disenfranchised, the hippie flower children, from the 60s and a lot of Vietnam vets, at the end of the 60s, early 70s, when Nixon took office, like they just wanted to fuck off. Like they were sick of America. They wanted to go off grid. So a lot of them, they went up into these mountains in Northern California with all the redwoods, just beautiful, magical area. And they settled, and they didn't grow up. They didn't go up there to grow weed. They went up there to like fuck off and live off the grid, and not be a part of like the 3 bedroom house and the white picket fence and the 9 to 5 and all that. They wanted to go do their own thing, and a lot of them they just happened to smoke weed. So they brought some seeds up there from the weed that they had because back then almost all weed was seeded, and they started planting just out of necessity. Because they were planting everything. They bought
Yeah.
seeds for everything because that's how they were living, the homesteaders, and they just started growing weed late 60s, early 70s. And then lo and behold, by the mid 80s, the best weed in the planet is coming from this same area. They had introduction of different seeds, like from, like Kush seeds from like Pakistan and Afghanistan and stuff like that, mixed with like the Mexican seeds from the stuff they're getting. And then they just started crossbreeding and, they eventually, Sinsemilla, unseeded weed. And they just got all these crazy strains, fruity, gassy strains that have become, big in the whole world. But that's where it all started. It all started in Humboldt County. It all started in Emerald Triangle. So that's the story I'm telling. And that'll be out in the next couple months. And then after that, I got 3 more episodes. I'm going to tell the story, the war on drugs story in the 80s with all the helicopters, the green rush when it was medical, like in the 2000s. And then all the way up the 4th episode is going to be about legalization. And it's going to show how really legalization has forced a lot of these traditional, legacy operators or farmers. It's forced them out of the game, bro. As these big corporations have come on with these big greenhouses, it's really knocked a lot of these dudes. Like these are people that their family grew weed for 3 generations, and yeah, they wanted to go legal, but they can't compete, bro. These people up in the mountains, they have these little 10, 20,000 square foot farms. They can't compete with these big greenhouses. They drop the price so low. And the weed is the weed isn't as good. It's kind of like soulless weed. And a
Yeah.
lot of these dudes that grew the real good weed and put all the love and care into it, they can't even grow no more because it's not worth anything. So they've abandoned their farms or had to get real jobs. So that I kind of tell that story. That's the story that I tell in the series.
And they still have the cartels out there growing weed, right? On the black market, the cartels growing weed and undercutting prices.
Yeah, I would say not as much as it was, but I that area, bro. Like, so in Humboldt, the main part where all the business was done for the cannabis trade was, like Southern Humber, Garberville. That was like the main city, bro. It used to be like this bustling town because, you had people going up there to work, like trimmers, people from different countries. They would just go there to try to get jobs, every spring. And then all the marijuana money was supporting all the local businesses.
Yeah,
So then when they took all that, I mean, dude, legalization literally killed like a $5 billion business, just in that area, probably, right? Just in this Northern California area. So, the town used to be real bustling, had its heyday, and the green rush was really huge. Even when I was filming down there, the little town Garberville was still alive. But I've been up there a couple times recently, like, about 3 months ago, bro. It's dead, bro. The whole area is dead. It's crazy. Like, Southern Humboldt, Garberville, that's like where, if you had money and you wanted weed, that's where you used to go, bro. Like, since the whole time I was growing up for the last,
yeah,
30, 40 years. And now it's like a ghost town, bro. Like, you can probably not even find any weed there. You can, a
that's
few, but
crazy.
yeah,
That's
but it's crazy.
that is wild. So is that the only documentaries you have in store for the future?
No, I got this. So I'm working on that. I got the Psychedelic Revolution 2, which I'm working on, which should be out, um, probably by spring. And that's going to go in more into the Owsley in prison, the Brotherhood on the run, and resolving their legal case. And Tim Scully talking about being in a lab and what it's like an LSD lab. And then it ends with the Leonard Picard story, the Kansas missile silo LSD bust.
Yeah, I remember hearing that story.
Yeah, so that's coming up. We got that. That's probably like Tangle Roots is almost done. It's probably 85, 90% done. Psychedelic Revolution 2 is probably like about 50% done. It's getting there. And then I got a couple other projects I'm working on, which we're working up edits for right now. For the Love of God, which is the Gunnar Allen Lindblom story,
Yeah,
about a criminal and enforcer kind of in the streets in the mafia heyday, who found God in prison and turned his life around. And so I'm working on that. That's called the For the Love of God. We're going to actually release a teaser for that in February. And then I got this other one. I'm working on the Who Killed Les Crane, which is another. It's another Emerald Triangle story. It's about this dude Les Crane, who's from Jersey by way of Indiana, who went out there. He was out there in Mendocino, like in the like what they call the Green Rush days, like in the early 2000s, when a lot of people, like, you could give weed away as a sacrament for the church and take donations, and then it was just right like the beginning of the medical, where people were getting the scripts. And yeah, Les was out there. He was growing, he was, selling, distributing, he had like dispensaries, like some of the first dispensaries and some of the first churches, this dude from Jersey, by way of Indiana was out there doing it. He was quite a character, but eventually he ended up, he wasn't around very long. He got murdered after a couple of years. And this murder is still unsolved, man. It's just been covered up. It's corrupt. Some people think the police do it. Some people think the police are protecting people. It's just crazy. So I'm working on that doc right now. And
Yeah, so you got your hands in a lot of different fires, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I stay working on a lot of stuff. So
Yeah, you got to keep the wheel turning. Well, I wish you nothing but success in the future, man. Everything will work out.
definitely, bro. Hey, one thing about me, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep fighting.
I know
You
that's
know,
right.
I'm gonna
Definitely.
fight. I'm gonna fight my legal cases. I'm gonna fight for my work. I'm gonna fight for my doc. I'm gonna push everything I can. That's
Well,
what I like to do. I like to make stuff and I like to put it out there.
I seen you all over the news. I was like, what the fuck? You were all over the
Yeah.
news for a couple days, man. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah, they always want, it's a shame in life that when something like that happens, people, especially like the authorities or the news media stuff, they always want to try to show the worst angle of you, or the worst possible portrayal. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, I got a film on Netflix, I got 4 films on Amazon and Tubi. Obviously, that's what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? You don't do all that if that. So whatever, but people can say whatever they want to say. I'll have my day in court, and we'll see if I don't get thrown out before.
Definitely let me know. Give me some updates and I'll keep the people
Yeah,
informed
yeah,
also.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm probably gonna make a documentary about it too. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Well,
I'm gonna I'm gonna look at the injustices of Seward County.
definitely put a microscope on them. They deserve it. I wish you the best, man. Thank you for joining me today.
All right, all right. Peace, man. Be safe, Bill. Glad coming on.
Definitely.
All right,
If
bye
you
bye.
like this show, hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get my videos every time they drop. And if you don't like the show, too bad. Start your own podcast.